So originally I had planted 2 boxwoods here, and you can see there is one between and one next door there. So that's just going to fill in that little hedge a little bit quicker over there. I did have that pot plant down on the grass, but I have since decided that it works better up on the veranda. So both of those will now be on the veranda, and then I can always move them around, and the boxwood hedge will still provide a nice entranceway. And then on this side where I just had 1 boxwood originally, I now have put another 2, so those will go into the ground a little bit later this afternoon. And then what I'll do is I'll continue it round over here and make a nice little hedge with an entrance over here, vision, climbing roses over an archway. You've got to start off somewhere, and you've got to put in foundations along the way. And there is another row. So those are going to need a little bit more time, I think, before I put them into the ground, just to give them a little bit of time to root in a little bit more. But I think that will look very, very cute. Well guys, I'm not going to be doing much planting right now. It is still a bit warm, and so I think I'm going to leave those boxwoods until it cools down a little bit later. I don't want to stress them out unnecessarily, but I thought we would spend a little bit of time comparing our growing garden to our growing children. As you may or may not know, I am a teacher. I have been a teacher my whole career. It is something that I wanted to do since I was a little girl myself. In grade 2 more specifically, I realized that that's what I wanted to do, and so that is what I have done. I have been a grade R teacher for pretty much my entire career, and I have suffered the brunt of comments such as, "Oh, you're just a preschool teacher. You just stand around watching children play all day. What an easy job. That must be so much fun." And very rarely do you encounter people who actually stop and go, "Wow, what you do takes so much effort. What you do is amazing." Or even stopping to ask, "What exactly do you do in grade R?" Even that would be more appreciated than the comments that we've heard. Anyway, over the years, I have grown to realize that there's no need to get upset by those comments, and actually just to brush it off, because I need to value myself. I need to value what I do. And so I have learned that, and definitely adopted that in the last 10-15 years. And I so value what preschool teachers do. So I want to compare education, our children's education and growth, to the garden. Chatting to my nephew who lives in Thailand at the moment, and he's actually the one who compared it to me. He was asking me about my year and how things are going, and this is the first year that I'm teaching grade 1, and I'm totally loving the transition and the change. But the most important thing for me so far is the realization that grade R is actually such an important year, and it's just consolidated what I felt all the time. Grade 1 has highlighted for me the importance of the grade R and the preschool years, because if those foundations weren't laid, then my job in grade 1 would be more difficult. We do have children that come into our school from external schools, and they're at different levels to the children who have been through our system, and that's particularly where it is highlighted how valuable the grade R system has been. We realize that if the children don't go to grade R, and if the teachers aren't aware of possible learning disabilities that are coming up then already, and trying to remediate them from an early age, then they come through to grade 1 and they go through to grade 2 and so on and so forth, and they stunt the children's development and ability to grow and learn. So if we relate this whole thought process to our garden, we would start with the foundation, and the foundation of our garden is the soil. So if we turn to our soil here, my soil that I have here is in desperate need of some amending, and so I'm going to need to add some more compost and other materials to make sure that this is in peak condition for my autumn growing. Just like our children, the foundations that are developed for our children come from home. That is the primary education that children get, is from their parents at home. They get provided a safe, loving, nurturing environment in which to grow initially. They should be exposed to reading material, to counting, all those basics, so that by the time they are 3 and they enter the preschool environment, they already have a basis from which to jump off of, if you want to say. That's kind of their trampoline, and then they can bounce into the rest of the education system with relative ease because they've been introduced to the basics as well. So our foundation in the garden is definitely the health of our soil. This is going to have the vitamins and minerals in, which are going to allow our seeds to grow. At home, our parents provide the vitamins and minerals from which our children grow. So our children are then the seeds that we plant into the ground. No two children are the same. I'm sure as parents you know that, as educators you definitely know that. You may be presented with a class of 10 to 50 children, and no 2 of those children are going to be the same. Even twins, even identical twins, you're never going to get them exactly the same. And this is kind of where the trickiness of teaching definitely comes in, because you are now presented with a class of children who all have to learn the same information, but they all learn in different ways. So in an environment where you have small classes, you can work with that a little bit better, but in big classes, it does become quite tricky. Hopefully they have a nice solid foundation from the preschools that they're coming from, and they have been taught all the basics that they need. If they have gross motor weaknesses, fine motor weaknesses, speech problems, other OT related issues, sensory related issues, hopefully teachers have picked that up, or they've made their more formal school teachers aware of situations that could possibly crop up. Because obviously, while teachers sometimes can figure that there is something, they don't always necessarily know exactly what it is. They just can see that something is going to happen, and that is the reality of teaching. So again, we take our seeds, the children, and we put them in a classroom. We take our real seeds and we put them in the amended soil. And now we have to nurture them. We can't just leave them in the soil and just hope for the best and think that they are just going to grow all by their little lonesome selves. The children in our classrooms, the children at our houses, as parents as well, just because they're at school doesn't mean that your job is over and that you don't have to do anything more. We have to all work as a team to continue to nurture and grow those children. So in the garden, we're going to do things like watering the seedlings every day, making sure that those seedlings are misted over so that they can absorb that water and grow, and from there the little seedlings will pop up through the soil, where they'll be able to absorb the sun and the fertilizers that we put on and grow to the best possible plant that we can grow. Our children are the same. We put them in schools, and we choose schools based on what we feel as parents will benefit our children. Obviously, some people are more privileged than others and get to have a variety of choice, where other people just get to have whatever's available, and that is the unfortunate situation in the world. But we still, as educators and as parents, can have a significant impact on the future of our children's lives. So we can choose as parents not to follow up on homework, to let our children come home and just sit on devices for the rest of the day, or we can choose to be involved in their schooling, make sure that they're doing their homework, listening to them reading with them over and above whatever they have to do at school. taking them on outings and excursions and talking to our children, like really interacting with them. And as teachers as well, to spend time interacting with our children just takes it to the next level, where they actually start to feel valued and appreciated. So our seedlings are now being looked after on a daily basis. We continue to watch them to make sure that they are still growing, particularly the environment that they're in changes. One day it's blistering hot, so we have to put extra water on them. Another day you may enter a season where there's a frost, an unexpected frost or something, so you need to cover your plants. You need to adapt your environment to ensure that your plants continue to grow. And we are presented with the same situation with our children. Sometimes the environment that they're in is not the right environment for them. Sometimes we as teachers are presented with children who have learning barriers, who have learning difficulties, and we don't have the correct environment that they need in order to grow optimally. And that is when we have to have those difficult conversations with parents sometimes, and it's not always easy to do, but it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of wanting to benefit the children. And so the garden continues to grow, and so the child continues to grow, and we hopefully can provide activities that help them to find out what their strengths are, so that even if they have learning difficulties or learning barriers, they may still find that they have strengths in different areas. Not every kid is an academic. Not every kid should be considered an academic and have to achieve those kinds of things. You get children with all types of talents, and we should be acknowledging that. We should be helping them to see that, just like all of our plants. Not all of our plants are going to grow into butternuts. Some of them are different. We have pepper seeds, we have butternut seeds, we have aubergines, and all different types of things that we plant in our garden. We have all different types of seeds that we plant in our garden, obviously for different outcomes. And so we shouldn't lump all children together and expect the same result from every single child. We have to remember that children are individuals, and while we have to teach in group situations, we can still find the individuality and encourage them in those areas. So now our foundations have been laid, super important, and they've gone through to grade 1 and grade 2 and grade 3, and they've entered intermediate phase, and they've completed intermediate phase, and they've gone into high school. Often high school seems to be the place that most parents place most importance on. But stop and think. If we haven't got it right and we haven't intervened when the children were younger, high school is going to continue to be a struggle. It's going to be hard for the kids because those foundations aren't solid. And also bear in mind that even if your children have had a solid foundation but have learning difficulties or barriers, doesn't mean that the education system has necessarily failed them. It just means that you haven't found the optimum environment in which they need to grow. And our environments are changing on a daily basis. Our environments are becoming more technological, and it is the way of the world. It's not necessarily the greatest thing, but we need to use that technology in the correct way. The responsibility of teachers and parents are huge and constantly evolving and constantly under a lot of pressure, really, because we want to produce children who are balanced and able to adapt and cope in this changing world that we live in. And then seasons come to an end. So at the end of a season in our garden, our plants look dried up, and we have to clean up that bed. So we have to take out the spent plant and replenish what has been lost in the soil and refresh the bed and get ready for new plantings. So the analogy with our children in the classroom would be they come to the end of a term, a very busy term where a lot of information has been imparted and they have absorbed a lot. Their bodies are tired, their minds are tired, and they need time to rest. And that is why holidays are so important. There should be a time of rest and relaxation, a time of fun, a time of play, outdoor play, where they are still building their muscles and growing their bodies, so that when they come back to school and get back into the routine of school, they can be in optimum functioning mode to absorb more information for the next couple of weeks. So now we have our plants that have grown into young adults, I guess, after they have finished high school and they're going out into the world, into tertiary education. But we have beautiful fruit because we have nurtured them, we have met them where they were at. Not all of them were academics, some of them were sporty, some of them landed up being more culturally inclined, some were artistic. We have been good teachers and good parents and met our children each as individuals where they are at. And so now we have these beautiful fruit that are ready to go out into the world. These fruit are full of potential because we have given them that potential. Every single phase of education has provided the correct amount of potential and love and care and nurturing so that those children could reach the potential that they were supposed to have. And when they go out into the world, and figuratively speaking, we cut them open, there is all that potential waiting inside of them to do good in the world, to believe in themselves, and to make a difference. And that is ultimately what the education system should be providing. And it's not a perfect science, and we don't get it right all the time. But I know the teachers that I spend every day with, that is their ultimate aim, that is their passion, and that is what they are aiming to do. And so all educators should be aiming to do the same thing, in my opinion. We are trying to change the world with the children that we educate. We are nurturing our garden by providing all the correct environments, from the soil to the water to the fertilizer, the seeds, and we are adapting the environment as much as humanly possible for each different type of seed. A blueberry needs acidic soil to grow. Butternut needs space and water. Peppers need heat. Every plant has a different need, and no two plants are the same. Every child has a different need, and no two children are the same. We need to keep this in mind when we are parenting and when we are educating. Our children can blossom just like our gardens can. And so that's my 2 cents, my little comparison of my garden and my teaching environment. Loving teaching grade 1, but I have loved teaching preschool for many, many years, and I'm so very grateful that I did, because I have seen the value that it brings to the children as they go up through the education system. And I believe that definitely grade R and preschool are some of the most important foundational phases of your children's development. So don't just wait for things to happen when they get older. Invest in their future by investing in their foundation phase. And love your gardens, real gardens and children gardens. Thank you for spending time with me in my chaotic garden for a little bit of something different. And I hope you have a fantastic week. And I will see you again next week. Bye.